Today, we are diving into one of the most provocative ideas in the history of philosophy. It comes from what's claimed to be a lost manuscript by the 17th century thinker Thomas Hobbes. And let me tell you, it's a theory of the human mind that feels, well, it feels shockingly modern, even today. So let's get into it. The whole thing really boils down to this one huge question. What if everything you think, everything you feel, and everything you want, what if it isn't the work of some kind of ghost in the machine? What if it's all just the physical operation of a complex biological machine? So this entire idea comes from this fascinating text, supposedly discovered recently, called Of the Mind and Its Operations. And in it, Hobbes, or whoever wrote it, basically tries to tear down centuries of tradition to build a new model of the mind from the ground up, using nothing but matter and motion. All right, so let's start with the absolute foundation of this argument. To really get what he's saying later, we have to understand his central claim about what the mind fundamentally is. And right away, you can see how big of a break this is from the old way of thinking. You know, the conventional view, the classic ghost in the machine, saw the soul as this non-physical spirit, totally separate from the body. Hobbes just throws that all out. For him, the mind isn't in the body. The mind is an operation of the body. And he really doesn't pull any punches. This quote from the text is just so blunt. A mind without a body is a nothing. It's a meaningless idea. For Hobbes, if you can't trace it back to a physical body, doing something, moving, it just isn't real. Everything, and I mean everything, has to start with the physical. Okay, so if the mind is a machine, how in the world does it actually work? I mean, how do you get from a simple sensation, like seeing the color blue, to a really complex thought, like writing a song? Well, Hobbes tries to build this engine for us piece by piece. And this lays out his causal chain perfectly. It all starts with some kind of external motion, something in the world pressing on our senses. That pressure travels inward, causing what he calls a commotion in the brain. And that commotion is what we call sense. Then, as that motion starts to fade away, kind of like an echo, that leftover trace is what he calls imagination or memory. I mean, I just love how stark this definition is. Imagination isn't some magical creative power. It's literally just old sensory input that's still rattling around in the brain, just losing its power over time. A memory of your favorite song? It's just the fading echo of the actual sound waves that hit your eardrum. And this leads to a pretty massive conclusion. There's no pre-installed software in our brains. Every single idea you've ever had, from something simple like Apple to something abstract like justice, was built from the raw data that came in through your senses. This machine starts as a blank slate, and it's shaped completely by experience. So if imagination is just fading sense data, how does this machine do something as complex as reasoning? What about logic? Well, Hobbes' answer is that the machine does have a kind of software, language. This right here, this is one of the most stunning ideas in the whole text. To Hobbes, reason isn't some mystical ability to find the truth. It's just reckoning, or as we might say today, it's computation. It's literally just adding and subtracting the meanings of words we've all agreed on. It feels so eerily predictive of how modern computers work, doesn't it? And the whole concept gets really clear with this analogy. Just like arithmetic is calculating with numbers, reason is calculating with words. You add the concept man to the concept mortal, and the consequence you get is mortal man. Thinking, for Hobbes, is basically just a form of verbal math. And the implication of this is just, wow. Truth isn't something that's just out there in the world. A rock isn't true or false. Truth and falsity, for Hobbes, are just properties of our sentences. A statement is true if we did our verbal math correctly, and it's false if we messed up the calculation. So we've covered sensation and reason. But what about feelings? I mean, surely emotions are more than just mechanics, right? Well, for Hobbes, the answer is a very firm no. He applies the exact same ruthless mechanical logic to our passions. According to the text, passions are just more internal motions. When we imagine something that helps us survive, what he calls our vital motion, we feel a physical motion towards it. That feeling is desire. And when we imagine a threat, we feel emotion away from it, and that is aversion. Every other motion you can think of is just some combination of those two basic drives. This just completely blows up our normal ideas about morality. For one person, studying a spider might be something they desire. It's good. For another person, that exact same spider triggers an aversion, which makes it evil. Good and evil aren't some cosmic truth. They're just the names we give to the things we want and the things we want to get away from. It's all relative to the individual machine. And what about free will? Well, for Hobbes, it's pretty much an illusion. Your will is just the name for whatever passion wins the internal tug-of-war right before you act. When you're deliberating, that's just different desires battling it out. The strongest one at that moment determines your choice. It's a deterministic outcome that, frankly, sounds a lot like what modern neuroscience says about competing neural signals in the brain. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds kind of bleak. If we're just machines programmed by desire and aversion, what's the point of anything? How can you live a good life? Well, this is where Hobbes offers some surprisingly practical advice on how to steer the machine. First, he has to just dismantle the traditional idea of happiness. See, most philosophies saw happiness, or felicity, as a final goal, right? A peaceful state of rest you could achieve once you finally satisfied all your desires. But Hobbes says, nope, that's impossible. Life is motion. To be without desire is to be dead. So happiness can't be a destination, it has to be the process itself. It's the continuous, successful pursuit of one desire after another. It's all about traveling well, not about arriving. And this brings us to his idea of wisdom. It's not about knowing some divine truth. It's the practical skill of managing your own internal mechanics. Think of it like this. Eating a whole cake is an apparent good. It satisfies an immediate craving. But the real good might be your long-term health. Wisdom is just the art of telling the difference between the two. And this just sums it up so perfectly. You can't turn off the machine of desire. That would be like trying to stop your own heart from beating. The goal is to understand the machine so well that you become a skillful pilot, steering your passions toward a good life instead of letting them crash you into short-term impulses. So that leaves us with this one final, really haunting question. If every single part of your inner life, every thought, every feeling, every choice, is just a complex sequence of physical events, then who or what is the you that's watching it all happen? What is the self? It's a question Hobbes's mechanical philosophy forces us to ask, and it's one that modern science is still grappling with today.